Have you ever felt your heart pounding so hard in a terrifying situation that you thought you might actually pass out?
Oh, definitely. We've all been there.
Right. But what if the exact physical feeling of extreme fear was actually biologically identical to thrilling excitement? Are you ready to trick your brain and conquer your biggest fears in exactly 5 seconds?
Yeah, the underlying science of how we process panic suggests that this isn't just some gimmick. It's actually a fundamental feature of human neurology.
In this deep dive, we're going to master 3 crucial reframing steps, bust 2 major myths about anxiety, and reveal 1 secret psychological weapon.
So that is a total of 6 important points that will completely change how you handle stress from this day forward.
Welcome to English Learning Podcast for daily life, real conversation, and easy listening practice. Today's deep dive is tailored specifically for you, our B2 and C1 English learners.
Exactly. Our goal today is simple, but pretty ambitious. You're going to master highly advanced English vocabulary, phrasal verbs, and idioms.
All while absorbing life-changing psychological strategies that you can apply immediately.
Right. Because the mission for our session today is incredibly urgent. We are exploring a cognitive framework utilized by top behavioral scientists to stop fear from robbing you of life's greatest experiences.
Because if you sit back and analyze it, fear limits absolutely everything, doesn't it?
It really does. I mean, it stops you from walking into your manager's office to ask for a raise you have clearly earned. It paralyzes you when you want to speak up and share a brilliant idea in a crowded boardroom.
Oh, for sure. It keeps that dream business you've thought about starting for the last 5 years permanently locked inside your head.
Exactly. But by the time we finish this discussion, you will possess the precise tools to speak confidently, act boldly, and finally reclaim those lost opportunities.
We want to see you step fully into your potential without holding back. But before we get into the heavy neuroscience, I want to plant a seed in your mind.
Okay, what is it?
Well, you have probably been told your entire life to just calm down whenever you start getting nervous. But what if trying to force yourself to calm down is actually the most destructive thing you could possibly do to your brain in that moment?
The big one.
We are going to unpack the biology of exactly why that backfires right after this.
So to understand why calming down is a flawed strategy, we really have to completely dismantle our traditional definition of fear.
Right, because in popular culture, we sort of treat fear like a ghost.
Yeah, exactly. We view it as this dark, abstract cloud of worry that simply hovers in our minds, like it's a purely mental state.
But behavioral science dictates that this is a fundamental misinterpretation.
Right. Fear isn't just in your head. It is intensely physiological. It is a very real, very tangible physical state cascading through your body.
So it's not some philosophical condition, it's flesh, blood, and chemicals.
Down to the cellular level. When you encounter a stressor, your autonomic nervous system initiates a radical, instantaneous transformation. Yeah, your heart rate aggressively accelerates to pump oxygenated blood to your major muscle groups. Your sweat glands activate to keep your core temperature down in case you need to run.
And your breathing changes too, right?
It does. Your lungs dilate, which can often feel like a sudden, tight constriction in your chest as your body tries to rapidly take in more oxygen.
That makes total sense.
And hormonally, your adrenal glands release a massive surge of cortisol, which is our primary stress hormone.
Let's look closely at that phrase for a second, surge of cortisol. Because the word surge perfectly captures the violent biology of what you're describing.
It's a great word.
For our advanced learners, surge, spelled S-U-R-G-E, is a fantastic C1 vocabulary word, meaning a sudden, powerful forward or upward movement.
Right.
We usually see it describing overwhelming natural forces, like a surge of water crashing over a dam during a flood, or a power surge that blows out your television.
Yeah, that's a perfect context for it.
So in the body, a surge of cortisol is like a chemical flood rushing through your veins. If you were playing in a massive championship soccer match, you might feel a sudden surge of adrenaline the moment the referee blows the starting whistle.
Exactly. And that chemical flood is designed to put you into an incredibly hyper-aware state. Your pupils literally dilate so you can take in more visual information.
Interesting.
Yeah. Your brain filters out background noise so you can focus entirely on the threat. Biologically speaking, your body is readying for action.
Readying for action.
Right. It is preparing to fight for survival or sprint away from danger.
Hyper-aware is another phenomenal descriptive term we should highlight here. Breaking down that C1 compound adjective, hyper implies something over, above, or beyond the normal limit. And aware means perceiving or noticing your environment.
Spot on.
When your senses are dialed up to their absolute maximum limit, where you can hear the faint hum of a refrigerator or notice a tiny shadow moving across the room, you are hyper-aware.
Oh, for sure.
A classic example would be walking to your car alone in a dark, empty parking lot late at night. That creepy environment instantly makes you hyper-aware of every single sound around you.
It really does. And that brings us to the most counterintuitive, fascinating biological reality of this entire framework.
Okay, hit me with it.
Well, we have just established the physiological symptoms of fear, the accelerating heart, the sweating, the tight chest, the surge of cortisol, and that hyper-aware state.
Right.
If you hook a human being up to medical monitors and look purely at their biometric data, their EKG, their galvanic skin response, their hormone levels, you cannot tell if they are standing on the edge of a cliff terrified for their life or if they have just won $1 million in the lottery.
Wait, really?
Yes. The physical state of fear and the physical state of profound excitement are biologically identical.
I have to admit, the first time I heard that concept, I thought it sounded like a complete bunch of baloney.
It does sound crazy at first.
And by a bunch of baloney, I mean absolute nonsense. Baloney is a type of cheap processed meat. But in conversational English, if you tell me something completely ridiculous, I'll say, that's a bunch of baloney.
Yeah, it's a great idiom.
Like if a used car salesman promises you a 20-year-old car will never, ever need a mechanic, you know that's just a bunch of baloney.
So, looking at the science, how can terror and joy be the exact same thing in the body?
Well, it feels like nonsense because we experience those two emotions so differently in our minds. But the somatic reality, the actual function of the organs and the nervous system, is just a generic state of high mobilization.
Right.
Your body is simply revving the engine, preparing for action. The only differentiating factor is the cognitive label your brain assigns to that physical arousal.
Wait, if the physical ingredients are absolutely identical, why does fear feel so uniquely agonizing? I mean, when I get scared, I get this terrible sinking pit in my stomach. It feels awful.
That pit in your stomach feeling is actually a perfect example of the biology at work. It's also a very common English idiom we should point out. A pit is a deep, dark hole in the ground. When you have a pit in your stomach, you experience a heavy, sinking, almost nauseous feeling in your belly caused by dread or intense anxiety.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
For instance, if you get to the airport and reach into your bag only to realize your passport is missing, that sudden drop in your gut is the pit in your stomach.
Great example.
But if excitement is identical to fear, why don't I get that awful sinking pit when I'm thrilled about something?
Actually, you do experience the exact same gastric shift, but you just don't interpret it as a pit of dread. Let me explain the biology of the stomach drop.
Please do.
When the nervous system hits the gas pedal, it diverts blood flow away from your digestive tract and pushes it toward your arms and legs. That sudden loss of blood flow in the gut causes a fluttering, dropping sensation.
Oh, wow.
Now, imagine you are strapped into a massive roller coaster. As you slowly click up to the top of the highest peak, your heart hammers. Your palms sweat. The blood drains from your gut, causing that intense, fluttering sensation.
Yeah, I know that feeling.
But your brain looks at the environment and says, we are at an amusement park. We bought a ticket for this. This is supposed to be incredibly fun. So your brain labels that physical state as excitement. You call that stomach drop butterflies in your stomach, and you throw your hands up and scream with joy.
But if I walk to the edge of a glass balcony on the 100th floor of a skyscraper,
the exact same biological mechanism fires. Heart hammers, palms sweat, blood drains from the gut. But your brain looks at the 100-story drop and the fragile glass and says, this is incredibly dangerous. We could die. Back away immediately.
Right, because of the context.
Exactly. Because of the environmental context, your brain labels that identical physical arousal as fear. The narrative your mind creates completely dictates your lived experience of the biology. Fear is paralyzing because your brain is commanding you to retreat. Excitement feels exhilarating because your brain is commanding you to engage.
It is incredible how the narrative overrides the physical reality.
Yeah.
It means our bodies aren't actually betraying us when we panic. Our bodies are just doing their job providing energy.
Yes, exactly.
It's the story the brain is telling about that energy that causes the problem. Okay, for our listeners tuning in right now, we are going to do some active speaking practice. Moving these psychological concepts into your active vocabulary requires vocalization.
It really does help lock it in.
I am going to say a core concept sentence, and I will leave you a few seconds of silence. I want you to speak it out loud wherever you are, focusing on confident pronunciation. Ready?
Go for it.
My body is readying for action. I'll give you a second to say it.
Say it nice and clear.
Let's do that one more time. Focus heavily on the R sound in readying, making it smooth and clear. My body is readying for action. Say it now.
Awesome.
Fantastic. The more you vocalize, the faster your brain adapts.
Oh.
So here is the million-dollar question. If your body is just blindly preparing for action with this massive surge of energy, how do you stop your brain from hitting the panic button and labeling it as a threat?
Well, the answer involves a speeding freight train, a giant boulder, and the worst advice society has ever given us. We'll uncover that next.
And that advice is so deeply ingrained in our culture that almost everyone uses it instinctively.
Yeah, without realizing they are actually amplifying the anxiety of the person they are trying to help.
Before we expose that terrible advice, I just realized we are about 10 minutes into our deep dive.
Time flies.
Let me take a quick pause to remind you, our incredible listeners. If you are finding value in this session and expanding your advanced English vocabulary, please take 1 second to like, share, and subscribe to support the channel.
It really helps us out.
Your engagement is the only thing that allows us to keep producing these incredibly deep, detailed educational materials. Hit that subscribe button and let's get back to the trap.
So the trap is the ubiquitous command to just calm down.
Ugh, I hate hearing that.
Right. Imagine you are about to walk into an intensely competitive job interview. You are visibly shaking. Your heart is beating out of your chest. A well-meaning friend puts a hand on your shoulder and says, just take a deep breath. Calm down. Think some happy thoughts.
Which, historically, has never worked for anyone in the history of the world. When I'm having a panic attack, someone telling me to calm down usually just irritates me, adding anger to my anxiety.
It fails because it is biologically contradictory to what is happening inside your nervous system. When you are terrified, you are operating in a state of severe agitation and extremely high arousal.
Those are two vital C1 vocabulary words we need to lock down. Let's look at agitation first. Agitation describes a state of intense anxiety, nervous excitement, or being deeply unsettled. It's a restless, uncomfortable energy.
Very uncomfortable.
For example, you might say, the delayed flight caused widespread agitation among the stranded passengers, leading to several arguments at the gate. And you paired that with the word arousal.
Yeah.
Now, in everyday casual English, arousal is frequently associated with romantic or physical intimacy. However, in the context of biology and psychology, which is the academic B2 definition we are using today, arousal simply refers to the physiological state of being awoken, where your sense organs are stimulated to a point of high perception and alertness.
Precisely. High arousal means your internal engines are roaring at maximum capacity. Your sympathetic nervous system is fully engaged.
Yeah.
To utilize a few excellent English phrasal verbs, you are completely amped up and jacked up.
Oh, phrasal verbs are the secret weapon to sounding like a native speaker.
Yeah.
To be amped up means to become highly energetic, intense, or aroused.
It's a great visual.
Yeah, if you think about a musician plugging an electric guitar into an amplifier to make the music loud and powerful, being amped up means your internal energy is loud and powerful. You might hear someone say, the team was completely amped up in the locker room before the championship game. Similarly, to be jacked up means you are highly stimulated, nervous, or excited, often artificially. For instance, I drank 3 double espressos this morning, and now I'm so jacked up I can't even sit still.
I've been there.
And when you combine being amped up with a negative situation, you might freak out, which simply means to panic, lose control of your emotions, or act irrationally due to fear. As in, I realized I deleted my entire presentation right before the meeting, and I completely freaked out.
So, keeping those linguistic concepts in mind, picture your physical state during a panic response. You are highly agitated, completely amped up, jacked up on cortisol, and freaking out.
Just a mess of energy.
Right. Your internal momentum is moving at a breakneck speed. Conversely, what is the physical state of being calm? True calmness is a state of extremely low arousal. Your resting heart rate is slow, your breathing is shallow and rhythmic, your muscles are loose and entirely relaxed.
You are describing two opposite ends of the biological spectrum.
It is a canyon of physiological difference. Your central nervous system cannot instantaneously leap from a state of violent, high arousal agitation straight down to a low arousal state of Zen-like calm.
It just can't physically happen.
The physical momentum of the chemicals in your blood simply will not allow it.
And this is where that Gulliant train analogy comes into play.
It perfectly illustrates in the mechanical failure of trying to force calmness. Visualize your highly anxious, agitated nervous system as a massive, heavy freight train roaring down the steel tracks at 150 miles per hour.
Okay, I can picture that.
That raw speed and weight represents your state of high arousal. Trying to eliminate the anxiety by telling yourself to just calm down and think positive thoughts is the equivalent of trying to stop that 150-mile-per-hour train by dropping a giant, immovable boulder directly onto the tracks in front of it.
A boulder being a massive, heavy rock. If you drop a massive rock in front of a speeding train.
The train does not gently come to a halt. It results in a catastrophic disaster.
Yeah, of course.
The train violently smashes into the boulder, derails, jumps off the tracks, and tears itself apart. When you apply this to the human mind, attempting to forcefully suppress your panic and demand calmness when your bloodstream is flooded with adrenaline only confuses your brain.
Right, because the body's sending a different signal.
Exactly. The brain detects the massive amount of cortisol and says, wait, why are we trying to relax? Our heart is beating 140 times a minute. There must be a massive threat we are ignoring. Send more adrenaline.
Wow, so it actually makes it worse.
Clinical studies confirm that suppressing your fears or relying solely on positive thinking during a high arousal event actually intensifies the physiological panic.
Let me see if I'm tracking this logic. We have this unstoppable speeding train of nervous energy. We know that slamming on the brakes with a boulder of forced calmness causes a psychological crash.
Right.
So if we can't stop the momentum, we have to steer it. We need a mechanism to switch the train onto a different set of tracks without forcing it to lose its speed.
Yes. You don't try to diminish the energy, you repurpose it. You redirect the momentum by providing the brain with a completely different logical explanation for why the train is moving so fast in the first place.
Which brings us to the actual mechanics of the solution, the cognitive tool that behavioral experts use to hack the nervous system during intensely high-stress situations. The 5-second rule.
The behavioral execution of the 5-second rule is disarmingly simple, but the neurological shift it forces inside your brain is remarkably complex.
How so?
When you feel that sudden, terrifying spike in your heart rate, maybe you are about to walk out onto a stage or the airplane doors just closed, or you are dialing the phone number of a difficult client, you do not try to take deep breaths and calm down.
Right, no boulders.
Instead, you immediately, silently count backwards in your head. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Just a simple countdown. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. From the outside, that sounds like a gimmick. How on earth does counting backwards stop a chemical flood of cortisol?
It works because counting backward acts as a neurological interrupt. Let's look at the brain's architecture to understand the mechanism.
Okay, lay it on us.
When you are experiencing terror, your brain has essentially been hijacked by the amygdala. The amygdala is an almond-shaped cluster of neurons deep inside the emotional center of the brain. It is primitive, ancient, and highly reactive.
And it handles the fear, right?
It governs the fight-or-flight response. When the amygdala detects a threat, it takes over the system and effectively shuts down the logical, reasoning parts of your mind so you can react purely on instinct.
Which explains why you can't just talk yourself out of a panic attack using logic. The logical part of your brain is literally offline.
Exactly. You are operating entirely on autopilot. But counting backward requires active, conscious focus.
Right.
Counting forward, 1, 2, 3, 4, is a deeply ingrained habit stored in the basal ganglia. You can count forward without thinking about it at all, but counting backward is a targeted action.
Oh, that makes sense.
When you force yourself to focus on the sequence of 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, you disrupt the amygdala's automatic fear loop. More importantly, to execute that backward sequence, your brain is forced to rapidly redirect blood flow and metabolic energy to awaken the prefrontal cortex.
We really need to define the prefrontal cortex for our listeners, as it's a vital C1 term for understanding psychology.
Absolutely.
The prefrontal cortex is the highly evolved region of your brain located right behind your forehead. It acts like the CEO of your mind. It is responsible for complex, logical thinking, decision-making, planning for the future, and regulating your emotional responses.
Yeah, it's the boss.
It is what separates human beings from animals reacting on instinct. So the act of counting backward physically pulls the electrical and chemical resources away from the panicking emotional center and forces them into the rational executive center of the brain.
It forces a physiological gear shift. Awakening the prefrontal cortex settles the chaotic thoughts and reasserts your conscious control over your biology, ripping your mind off autopilot.
That's huge.
This physiological interruption is absolutely essential if you want any chance of halting the escalation of panic.
Essential is a powerful B2 word, meaning absolutely necessary or fundamentally important. You could say Proper hydration is essential if you want to run a marathon.
Right.
And earlier, you mentioned a gear shift, linking back to the phrasal verb switch gears, which is a superb idiom.
Oh, I use that one all the time.
In an automobile, switching gears changes the transmission speed and power distribution. In human behavior or conversation, to switch gears means to abruptly change the topic, your approach, or your line of thinking. For example, we spent 2 hours discussing the budget. Let's switch gears and brainstorm marketing ideas.
Exactly.
So the countdown literally switches the gears of your neural pathways.
It shifts you from being a helpless passenger to being the driver of your own mind. It is a rapid, active assertion of control.
This is a perfect moment for our listeners to do some more active speaking practice. The physical act of vocalizing actually engages the prefrontal cortex even more than just thinking silently.
It really does.
I want you to practice the cadence, rhythm, and intonation of this countdown with me. Afterward, you will affirm your cognitive control out loud. Repeat after me, speaking with deliberate authority.
Take your time with it.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Go ahead and say it.
Good job.
Excellent. Now, state this phrase with absolute confidence. I am in control of my thoughts. Go ahead.
Fantastic.
Brilliant work. You can use that mechanical interruption anytime you feel overwhelmed. But the countdown is only the first half of the equation.
Yeah, it's just the setup.
What you do in the exact milliseconds you reach the number 1 is the actual magic trick that hacks your biology. It involves something called the anchor thought, and we are going to explore how to build one right after this.
This is the critical juncture where all the biological and psychological elements we've discussed collide.
Okay, let's bring it all together.
We know that fear and excitement share the exact same high arousal physical state. We know that we cannot force a high arousal state to become a low arousal state. And we now know that counting backward from 5 interrupts the amygdala and brings the logical prefrontal cortex online.
Right. We've switched to gears.
But here's the catch. Once the prefrontal cortex is awake, you have a very narrow, fleeting window of time to provide it with new instructions.
Because if you just count down to 1 and then sit there staring at the wall, the amygdala is going to realize you are still in a stressful environment and the panic is going to flood right back in. The train will just jump back onto the tracks of anxiety.
It will rebound immediately. Therefore, the very second you hit 1, you must forcefully insert what psychologists refer to as an anchor thought.
An anchor thought.
This specific thought is the mechanism that relabels the raw physical agitation coursing through your body, turning it into excitement.
The word anchor is fascinating here. A physical anchor is a heavy, forged metal hook dropped from a ship to grip the ocean floor, preventing the boat from drifting wildly in the current.
Yes, exactly.
So an anchor thought functions the same way for the mind.
It is a perfect parallel. An anchor thought is a vivid, pre-planned mental image that grips your prefrontal cortex, preventing your runaway nervous system from escalating the situation into a full-blown panic attack.
Let's extract some vocabulary from that explanation. To escalate is a highly useful C1 verb, meaning to rapidly become worse, more intense, or more serious. You might read in the news, the minor disagreement between the two nations quickly escalated into a border conflict.
Great example.
And full-blown is a fantastic descriptive idiom, meaning completely developed, showing all the symptoms or characteristics of a specific condition. For example, what I thought was just a mild seasonal allergy turned into a full-blown sinus infection. The anchor thought is what stops the mild anxiety from escalating into full-blown terror.
It serves as your cognitive failsafe, ensuring that you don't screw things up when the stakes are highest.
Screw things up is an incredibly common, slightly informal phrasal verb that native speakers use constantly. It means to make a massive mistake, mishandle a situation, or completely ruin an opportunity. As in, I have the final interview for my dream job tomorrow. I really hope I don't screw things up by talking too fast.
Now, in order to guarantee you don't screw things up, there is one non-negotiable rule regarding the anchor thought.
What's the rule?
It cannot be random. It must be highly contextual to the specific task or environment that is triggering your fear.
Contextual, meaning it logically relates to the circumstances or setting of the event. It has to make sense within the narrative of what is happening around you.
Let me demonstrate this with a prominent example often cited in clinical psychology regarding the fear of flying. Millions of people suffer from aviophobia. They are absolutely terrified of airplanes.
Very common.
To utilize this framework, the anxious traveler must create their contextual anchor thought long before they ever arrive at the airport terminal. It cannot be a generic affirmation like, I am calm and safe. Why not? The brain will reject that because the body does not feel calm. The anchor thought must be a highly specific positive vision intrinsically linked to the purpose of the flight.
So if this traveler is boarding a plane to fly to Michigan for a family reunion,
their anchor thought might be a vivid, detailed mental movie of themselves walking barefoot on the sunny shores of Lake Michigan alongside their parents, feeling a profound sense of joy, relief, and excitement to finally be on vacation.
I want to push back on this requirement for a moment. Why is context so strictly mandatory? Why does the vision have to be about their destination in Michigan?
Fair question.
If I'm sitting on a shaking airplane and I want to feel happy, why can't my anchor thought just be a mental picture of a basket full of fluffy golden retriever puppies? Puppies universally make people happy and excited. Why wouldn't that work?
Well, because your brain is not easily tricked by random imagery. It possesses an incredibly sophisticated internal lie detector that constantly evaluates environmental cues. Let's walk through the puppy scenario.
Okay, I'm ready.
You are in the window seat. Suddenly, the aircraft hits a severe pocket of turbulence. The plane drops abruptly. Your stomach drops. Intense feelings of panic begin to rise up in your chest.
To rise up means a feeling or emotion suddenly emerges and increases in intensity within your body, almost like water filling a glass. For example, a deep sense of anger began to rise up in him when he realized he'd been lied to.
So the panic is rising up as the plane shakes violently. You remember the rule. You count 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You interrupt the amygdala. Then you forcefully picture a basket of cute puppies.
Okay, I'm picturing them.
Your prefrontal cortex comes online, looks at the mental image of the puppies, and then assesses the physical environment, the rattling overhead bins, the turbulence, the massive surge of cortisol in your bloodstream.
And what does it say?
The brain immediately recognizes a massive cognitive dissonance. It says, what on earth do puppies have to do with this violently shaking metal tube 30,000 feet in the air? This is irrelevant. This is a distraction. We are in mortal danger. Flood the system with more adrenaline. The brain rejects the puppy thought entirely because it lacks logical environmental context.
Oh, that makes total sense. It rejects the image because it doesn't align with the reality of the shaking environment. It feels like a lie.
Exactly. But let's run the scenario using the contextual anchor. The plane drops. Panic rises up. You count 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The prefrontal cortex engages.
Right.
In that critical window, you insert the vision of walking on the sandy beach in Michigan with your family. You aggressively tell yourself, I am so excited to walk on the shores of Lake Michigan. I am so thrilled to finally see my parents.
And how does the brain process that specific narrative?
A profound biological reframing occurs. The prefrontal cortex looks at your elevated heart rate, your rapid breathing, and your sweating palms. Then it looks at the anchor thought, the ultimate destination of Michigan. Okay.
Because the vision contextually makes perfect sense. You are, factually, on a flight bound for Michigan. The brain accepts the narrative. It synthesizes the data and says, oh, I understand the situation now. Our body is incredibly agitated and our heart is pounding, not because we are about to die in a fiery crash, but because we are just overwhelmingly excited to get to our vacation in Michigan.
That is legitimately fascinating. You are essentially exploiting a loophole in your own neurobiology. You take the raw, chaotic physical energy of a panic response, and by assigning it a logical, contextual destination, you force your brain to recategorize that energy as enthusiasm.
It is a universal framework that applies across any stressful domain. Consider a professional scenario. You are terrified of initiating a difficult conversation with your manager to negotiate a higher salary.
A scary one.
The prospect leaves you completely paralyzed. So before you even approach their office door, you construct your anchor thought.
What makes for an effective anchor thought when dealing with a daunting social interaction like a boss meeting? The most effective social anchor thought focuses on the emotional relief and pride you will experience immediately after the successful completion of the terrifying task.
After it's over.
Yeah. You might picture yourself walking out of your manager's office, standing in the hallway, and feeling an immense surge of pride for advocating for your own worth. Or you visualize pulling out your smartphone the second you leave the building to call your partner, hearing yourself say out loud, I survived. I actually asked for the money and it went incredibly well.
So when you are standing in the corridor, your hand trembling as you reach for the doorknob to your boss's office, and you feel that heavy pit in your stomach, you silently go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Yeah.
You awaken the prefrontal cortex, visualize that victorious phone call to your partner, and tell yourself, I am so incredibly excited to have this meeting right now because I cannot wait to feel that pride when it's over.
Precisely. Let's examine one more high-stakes environment to solidify the concept. Picture a professional keynote speaker who is about to walk onto a massive stadium stage to deliver a presentation to an audience of 7,000 people.
Just visualizing 7,000 pairs of eyes staring at me is enough to give me a pit in my stomach.
It is a tremendously intense environment. Backstage, the sensory input is overwhelming. The introductory music is blasting through massive subwoofers. The crowd is murmuring a low roar of anticipation.
So stressful.
The speaker is standing alone in the dark wings of the stage. Their heart is hammering violently against their ribs. Their hands are clammy and their armpits are sweating profusely. Physiologically, they are experiencing the exact same biometric symptoms as someone being chased by a predator.
If that speaker allows their brain to label that physiological chaos as fear, they're doomed. They will walk out under the spotlights and completely freeze up, or they will panic and rush through their speech in 10 minutes, or they might literally turn around and run out the back door. They will completely screw things up.
But a trained speaker utilizes the framework. They feel the heart pounding. They count 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The prefrontal cortex takes the wheel.
Right.
They insert a highly contextual anchor thought. They focus on the faces in the audience and tell themselves, I am not afraid. I am incredibly excited. I am so excited to get out on that stage and share this transformative knowledge with these 7,000 people. I am excited to impact their lives today.
And the brain buys the narrative. The brain evaluates the racing heart and the sweating palms and concludes, we are sweating and our heart is racing because we have 7,000 people waiting for our help. We have a massive job to do. Let's go.
Exactly.
It takes all that nervous, jittery energy and converts it into dynamic performance energy. It reframes the agitation into pure enthusiasm.
It provides you with ultimate psychological leverage over your own biology.
Listeners, the implications of this are staggering. And the most beautiful part of this concept is that it isn't just an abstract theory debated in academic psychology journals. This exact technique has been empirically proven to work in the messy, chaotic reality of everyday life for thousands of individuals.
Thousands of them.
In fact, we are going to walk through some incredible documented success stories, and then I have a highly practical, interactive role-play exercise for you to complete right now to prove that you can apply this today. But first, here is a miniature hook to keep you on your toes.
Ooh, what is it?
You now understand how to beat fear in 5 seconds flat. But I have one final, incredibly powerful, secret bonus tip coming at the very end of this session that will make your anchor thought completely indestructible. You definitely want to stick around for it.
While the neurological theory is robust, exploring the real-world application is where we truly see the transformative power of this tool. Let's analyze a few documented case studies of individuals who fundamentally changed their lives by pairing the 5-second countdown with the contextual anchor thought.
Case studies are perfect. They ground the dense science in relatable human experience.
Consider the case of a woman named Sarah. Sarah submitted a detailed account to behavioral researchers explaining that for her entire adult life, she had been absolutely petrified of flying.
Petrified is a stellar C1 vocabulary word that paints a very vivid picture. To be petrified means to be so intensely frightened, so overwhelmed by terror that you are literally unable to move or think clearly.
Like a statue.
Exactly. Etymologically, it comes from the Greek word for rock or stone. The fear literally turns you into a frozen statue of stone. An example sentence would be, when the hiker unexpectedly crossed paths with a massive grizzly bear on the trail, he stood completely petrified, holding his breath. So Sarah wasn't just nervous about flying, she was petrified. It was a paralyzing, life-altering phobia.
It completely dictated her lifestyle. It restricted her vacation destinations, prevented her from visiting distant family members, and kept her world very small.
That's so sad.
But she learned the mechanics of the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 interruption. She began practicing it diligently, pairing it with a deeply joyful, highly specific anchor thought about arriving at her destination.
And did it work?
Not only was she able to dismantle her fear enough to board a standard commercial flight without a panic attack, but she eventually sent the research team a photograph of herself strapped into a doorless helicopter, taking an aerial tour over the active volcanoes in Hawaii.
A doorless helicopter.
Yeah.
Going from being utterly petrified of sitting inside a secure, massive commercial jetliner to willingly flying with the doors completely off in a tiny, vibrating helicopter over a volcano. That is an astonishing psychological leap.
It's wild.
That isn't just coping with fear. That is annihilating the fear and discovering a source of extreme, exhilarating joy on the other side.
Her journey perfectly validates the biological premise that the physical energy of fear truly is the exact same energy as excitement. Once Sarah successfully relabeled the physiological arousal, the helicopter ride transformed from a potentially traumatic nightmare into the thrill of a lifetime.
That's amazing.
We see similar radical transformations in the realm of public speaking. Another case study involves a woman named Carol who suffered from an intense, career-stagnating fear of speaking in front of crowds.
Which is an incredibly common affliction. In many sociological surveys, the fear of public speaking is frequently ranked higher than the fear of death, which sounds absurd, but highlights just how intensely the amygdala perceives social judgment as a survival threat.
Carol was a veteran nurse with decades of experience. It was a deeply held life goal of hers to stand before her nursing colleagues and deliver a comprehensive speech sharing the clinical wisdom she had accumulated over her career. Accomplishing this was a major, lingering item on her bucket list.
Let's quickly illuminate the phrase bucket list for our B2 learners, as it's a staple of conversational English. A bucket list is a personalized list of all the goals, dreams, and experiences you want to achieve before you die. Before you kick the bucket, which is an old slang idiom for passing away.
Yep, that's where it comes from.
For example, learning to speak fluent Italian and scuba diving in the Great Barrier Reef are the top 2 items on my bucket list.
Delivering this wisdom to her peers was at the top of Carol's bucket list. However, whenever the opportunity arose, the physical symptoms of fear, the violently shaking hands, the tight chest, the inability to catch her breath always overpowered her.
Ah, poor thing.
She felt the fear rising up, assumed it was a biological stop sign, and convinced herself she simply wasn't capable of doing it. But then she absorbed this cognitive framework. The next time the nerves hit, she didn't try to calm her shaking hands. She counted backwards. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
And the anchor thought.
She inserted a powerful anchor thought, visualizing how incredibly proud and fulfilled she would feel walking off that stage, knowing she'd finally imparted her knowledge to her fellow nurses. She systematically reframed her internal narrative from impending doom to eager excitement.
I have to know, did she actually go through the presentation?
She delivered the speech flawlessly to a packed room. She utilized the nervous energy to project her voice and speak with passion. She conquered the phobia, proudly checked the massive goal off her bucket list, and significantly elevated her professional standing among her peers.
Stories like that are just so profoundly inspiring. They remind us that the fears holding us back are usually just a wall of smoke. When you finally force yourself to walk through it, you realize there was nothing solid there to begin with.
Exactly.
Now, for our B2 and C1 English learners listening to us right now, you might not be planning to jump into a doorless helicopter over a volcano today. You might not be scheduled to give a keynote speech to 7,000 people.
However, the neurological principles are entirely scalable. They apply perfectly to everyday microstressors.
Precisely. And for someone dedicating themselves to learning a complex second language, even casual everyday interactions can trigger a massive spike in cortisol and a racing heart.
Oh, absolutely.
Walking into a busy coffee shop in a foreign country and having to engage in spontaneous small talk with a native English speaker can easily induce that heavy pit in your stomach. The fear of using the wrong verb, tense, forgetting a vocabulary word, mispronouncing a syllable, or just freezing up awkwardly, that is a very real, very physiological fear response.
Your brain misinterprets the social pressure as a survival threat. The amygdala fires off a warning. If we mess up this English sentence, we will look foolish, we will be socially ostracized, and we will be cast out of the tribe. This is a crisis. Flood the system with adrenaline.
Right. The brain dramatically overreacts. Therefore, we need to actively practice short-circuiting that reaction. Listeners, we're going to practice a low-stakes, everyday scenario right now to build your cognitive confidence using the framework long before you have to step into a high-stakes environment like talking to your boss.
This is a great idea.
We are going to execute an interactive role play focusing on weather-related small talk. Small talk about the weather is the most ubiquitous, fundamental conversational skill in the English-speaking world, yet it still causes immense anxiety for learners. I am going to act as your conversation partner. I will speak a prompt, and then I will leave a long pause for you to reply out loud.
Don't be shy, speak up.
Before you answer, I want you to imagine you are feeling a little nervous. So first, in your head, quickly execute the sequence. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Tell yourself, I am excited to practice my English and improve. Then respond to my prompts out loud. Challenge yourself to use a new B2 or C1 vocabulary word we covered today in your response. Are you ready? Let's dive into the role play.
Here we go.
Hey there. Man, the weather has been so wildly unpredictable lately, hasn't it? One minute it's freezing cold and raining, and the next minute it's absolutely boiling hot. How are you holding up with all these sudden temperature changes? I'll give you a few seconds to answer out loud now.
Just speak right into the room.
That was a great response. Let's keep the conversational momentum going. I'll follow up on what you just said.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that. It really messes with your schedule and makes it hard to plan anything outdoors, doesn't it?
Speaking of which, since the weather is finally supposed to be nice and clear this weekend, do you have any exciting plans lined up? Go ahead and answer again.
Almost done.
Excellent job. Now, reflect for a moment. Did you feel a slight hesitation in your chest before you spoke? Did your heart rate bump up just a tiny bit?
If it did, that's totally fine.
That is completely normal. That is simply your body readying for action, preparing resources for the cognitive load of speaking a second language. The more consistently you practice pausing, counting back 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and cognitively labeling that hesitation as excitement to learn and grow, the faster you will dismantle your language anxiety and become a highly fluent, effortlessly confident English speaker. You possess the neurological tools now.
Engaging in the daily practice of this cognitive reframing is exactly how you build long-term, durable psychological resilience. You are literally rewiring the neural pathways in your brain, training your prefrontal cortex to automatically interpret physiological stress signals as fuel rather than as a threat.
We have covered an incredible expanse of psychological and linguistic ground today. We journeyed from the raw physiological realities of how fear manifests in the body, explored the catastrophic failure of the speeding train analogy, decoded the neuroscience of how the prefrontal cortex overrides the amygdala, and unlocked the contextual magic of the anchor thought.
We really covered a lot.
But as promised, I still have one final, incredibly potent secret bonus tip on how to make your anchor thought absolutely unbreakable right after we synthesize our core takeaways.
When we synthesize everything we have dissected today, the ultimate takeaway is a profound realization regarding human autonomy and biological acceptance. The truth is, you cannot control the physical feelings that organically rise up in your nervous system.
You just can't.
You cannot consciously command your heart to stop beating faster when violent turbulence hits an airplane, or when your name is unexpectedly called in a high-stakes board meeting, or when you walk up to introduce yourself to someone you find deeply attractive. The physiological adrenaline response is an automatic evolutionary reflex.
The biological wave is going to crash over you regardless of what you do.
Exactly. You cannot stop the wave.
Yeah.
But while you cannot control the raw physical sensations, you can always control your cognitive thoughts, and you can always control your subsequent actions. You are the sole architect of your mind's narrative.
I love that.
By utilizing the 5-second interruption, you seize the steering wheel. By strategically deploying a contextual anchor thought, you write the script of how that energy will be used, which leads to a final, highly provocative philosophical thought I want to leave our listeners to ponder.
I'm all ears. Let's hear it.
If the underlying science is accurate, and the physical sensation of paralyzing fear and the physical sensation of exhilarating excitement are truly, identically, the exact same physical energy circulating in your body, what if every single moment of anxiety you have ever felt in your entire life was actually just mislabeled potential?
Wow.
What if the terrifying situations that give you the biggest, heaviest pit in your stomach are actually your life's biggest opportunities for profound excitement, achievement, and personal growth, just waiting for you to relabel them?
Mislabeled potential. That changes the entire landscape of how we view our struggles. It means the fear isn't a solid brick wall meant to keep you out. It is just a heavy door waiting to be pushed open. It is a tremendous reservoir of raw energy waiting to be directed towards something positive. What a massive life-altering paradigm shift.
It represents the fundamental difference between a life lived constantly shrinking backward in avoidance and a courageous life lived stepping boldly forward into the unknown.
I absolutely love that framing. Stepping forward into the unknown. Now, to ensure that you are fully equipped to always take that courageous step, here's the secret bonus tip I promised you. When you are in the process of creating your contextual anchor thought, let's go back to the example of visualizing walking on the sunny shores of Lake Michigan. Do not just construct a flat, two-dimensional silent photograph in your mind.
That's not enough.
The psychological secret to making the anchor thought incredibly powerful and unbreakable is to layer it with a specific sound, and a specific smell.
Ah, you are referring to the concept of sensory integration.
Yes, you have to trick the brain completely. If your anchor thought is arriving in Michigan, imagine the physical auditory sound of the gentle waves rhythmically crashing against the sand. Take a deep mental breath and imagine the specific, crisp, fresh smell of the cold lake water and the pine trees.
Oh, I can almost smell it.
If your anchor thought is calling your partner after successfully surviving the meeting with your boss, vividly imagine the exact melodic tone of their voice answering the phone, and imagine the rich roasted smell of the victory coffee you are holding in your hand as you make the call. The more of your five senses you actively involve in the mental projection, the more authentic and real it becomes to your brain's internal lie detector, and the faster your brain switches the gears from overwhelming fear to pure, unadulterated excitement.
That is highly accurate. Actively engaging multiple olfactory and auditory senses recruits significantly more neural pathways across different regions of the brain. This makes the cognitive relabeling substantially more effective, vivid, and robust against the rising tide of somatic panic.
It is the ultimate neurological brain hack. All right, my incredible, dedicated B2 and C1 English learners, we have finally reached the end of this massive, value-packed, hour-long deep dive. Because you have invested so much time today, I have a few specific challenges for you to complete right now in order to permanently lock this knowledge into your brain. First, if you possess the focus and dedication to make it to the very end of this extensive deep dive, I want you to prove it to me. Scroll down to the comment box right now and type the exact phrase, "I am consistent."
Psychological consistency is the absolute foundational key to successful language acquisition.
I couldn't agree more. Type, "I am consistent," in the comments to claim your victory. Second challenge, I want to test your memory retention of the specific idioms we covered earlier. Answer this question in the comments. What exactly does the idiom "a pit in your stomach" mean, and when was the last time you personally felt it? Write out your answer and challenge yourself to use the idiom in a complete, grammatically complex sentence. Let's see those advanced B2 and C1 grammar structures in action.
Engaging in active recall like this is definitively the best method to ensure that new vocabulary permanently migrates from short-term memory into your active, long-term lexicon.
Third, remember that we designed these deep dives exclusively for you, the learner. So write your feedback in the comments and tell us exactly which kind of topic you wanted to tackle for the next video. Do you want more cognitive psychology, advanced business English negotiation tactics, cutting-edge science and technology? Let us know what fascinates you. Also, if you liked this video and found it helpful, go down to the description box below. I have provided a special link right there. If you click it and subscribe to our mailing list just once, you will receive a premium, high-level English learning article delivered straight to your email for free every single time we publish a new piece of content. It is an incredibly valuable resource to push your reading practice to the next level.
Continuously expanding your reading comprehension in tandem with your listening comprehension is absolutely vital for achieving true, well-rounded fluency.
And finally, if you enjoyed this specific deep dive, there are many, many more deep dives and discussions available right now on my channel, covering a massive variety of fascinating subjects. Go check them out and binge watch your favorites. To binge watch is a great modern phrasal verb, meaning to watch multiple episodes of a show rapidly, one after another, in a single sitting. Keep practicing your speaking out loud, keep actively listening to native conversations, and above all else, keep actively conquering your fears. Remember, the very next time you feel that sudden racing heart and that heavy pit in your stomach, don't panic. That is just your incredible body getting ready for action. Count 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and step boldly into the excitement. We will see you next time.